Sister, please don't shoot. There are children sleeping 2 doors down. Have you ever wondered what it takes to stop a killer mid-revenge? A gun raised, a traitor kneeling, and a kitchen boy who just walked into the wrong corridor at exactly the wrong time. Car 9. Yellow light barely cuts the shadows. The floor hums with the rhythm of steel wheels on midnight rails. Amara Adeni stands with her spine straight as a blade, a 9mm pressed against the skull of the man who betrayed her sister. Caroline kneels on the vibrating floor, sweat pooling at his collar. His breath comes fast and shallow. He knows what she is. He knows what comes next. Amara, he whispers, his voice rough with fear and exhaustion. Listen to me. We can make a deal. I have information you need. Names, bank accounts, safe houses. Everything the Shadow Coast Network has been looking for. Amara's expression doesn't change. Her finger rests lightly on the trigger, not quite applying pressure yet, not quite pulling. The anticipation is part of the ritual, the moment before the moment. The last few seconds of a life that's already been spent. The only deal, she says, her voice like ice over deep water, beautiful and deadly, is whether you die fast or slow. That's the only choice you get. Everything else ended the night you killed my sister. The train lurches slightly as it takes a curve. The motion sends a ripple through the corridor. Somewhere in the distance, a child cries out in sleep, then settles, the sound of ordinary life continuing, unaware of the violence unfolding just doors away. Caro's eyes dart toward the connecting door at the far end of the corridor, calculating, always calculating, even now. And that's when the door slides open. A young man in a stained kitchen uniform pushes a silver service cart through, his movement slow with exhaustion. He's in his early 20s, East Asian, with dark circles under his eyes and flour dusting his forearms. His shoulders are bent from a double shift. The cart rolls smoothly on well-oiled wheels, and steam rises from covered trays. Late-night snacks for insomniacs in first class. The scent of jasmine tea drifts through the corridor, mingling with the smell of fried rice and something sweet, sesame oil, fresh vegetables. The comforting aroma of food made with care, even at 2 in the morning. He's looking down at a handwritten order slip, his lips moving slightly as he reads, double-checking the car number. His face is kind, soft around the edges in a way that suggests he hasn't seen enough cruelty yet to harden. There's a gentleness in his features that doesn't belong in Amara's world. He looks up, sees the gun, sees Amara standing over a bound man, sees the cold determination in her eyes. He freezes. The cart stops. The color drains from his face. His eyes go wide, not with the cunning of someone familiar with violence, not with the calculating gaze of someone in the life, but with the simple, honest terror of someone who just walked into the wrong place at the worst possible time. Caro sees his chance, the only chance he'll get. He throws his weight sideways, slamming his shoulder into Amara's legs. She stumbles. Her finger jerks on the trigger, and the gun fires. The sound is deafening in the enclosed corridor, a sharp crack that echoes off the metal walls like thunder in a canyon. The bullet cuts through the air, misses Caro by inches, and grazes the young man's cheekbone as he instinctively turns away. A thin line of blood appears, bright red against his skin. He gasps, drops the order slip, and the cart rolls forward on its own momentum, crashing into the wall with a metallic clang. Dumplings scatter across the floor like dice, rolling and bouncing. A teapot tips, spilling fragrant liquid across the tiles. Steam rises in lazy curls. The young man staggers, his hand flying to his face. Blood seeps between his fingers. He could run, should run. The connecting door is right behind him. 3 steps and he's gone, safe, uninvolved in whatever nightmare this is. But he doesn't run. Instead, and this is what stops Amara's world for just a moment, he steps forward, plants himself between her and Caro. His hands are shaking so hard she can see them trembling in the dim yellow light. His breathing is rapid and shallow, the breathing of someone fighting panic and losing. But his voice when he speaks is steady, gentle. The voice of someone who's made a choice and won't be moved from it. "Sister," he says, addressing Amara with the informal respect common in his culture, the way you'd address a stranger you don't want to offend. "Please, please don't shoot. There are children sleeping 2 doors down. I just checked on them 5 minutes ago. A little girl and her baby brother. If you fire again, they'll wake up terrified. Please." Amara stares at him, at his calloused hands marked by kitchen work, burns, cuts, the evidence of long hours at hot stoves and sharp knives, at the way he stands despite the blood running down his neck and soaking into his collar, at the flour still dusting his uniform, at the name tag that reads Hyun in faded letters. She has not hesitated in 3 years. Not since the night Detective Williams called her at 3 in the morning to say they'd found Femi's body. Not since she held her baby sister's cold hand in the morgue and swore an oath over her still chest. She has tracked 19 people connected to that night. She has found them all. She has made them answer for what they did. She has not flinched, has not wavered, has not felt even a flicker of mercy. But something in this boy's voice, something gentle and desperate and completely, utterly foolish, makes her finger pause on the trigger, makes her see, just for a heartbeat, the children he's talking about, makes her remember being a child herself, waking in the night to sounds she didn't understand, fear she couldn't name. Makes her see herself through his eyes, a killer, a monster, someone who brings nightmares. Caro bolts. He scrambles to his feet despite his bound hands and slams through the connecting door, his shoulder hitting it hard enough to leave a dent. The lock clicks behind him with a sound of finality. He's gone, disappeared into the next car. 3 years of hunting, 3 years of planning. And he slipped away because a kitchen boy decided to be a hero. Amara curses under her breath, words in 3 languages, each one sharper than the last. She lowers the gun and takes a step toward the door, already calculating pursuit angles, exit routes, where Caro might go next. But the young man sways, his knees buckle. He catches himself on the wall, his palm leaving a smear of blood on the beige paint. His breathing is too fast now, heading toward hyperventilation. Amara turns back. She shouldn't. Every second she wastes is another second Caro gets further away. But something makes her turn. The boy touches his face gingerly, looks at the blood on his fingertips with a kind of dazed fascination. Then he looks at her, and his eyes, dark, soft, exhausted, hold no hatred, no accusation, no anger at all, only concern. "Did he hurt you?" he asks, his voice steadying as he focuses on her instead of his own injury. "Are you injured? I saw him hit you when he moved." For the first time in 3 years, Amara Adeniyi doesn't know what to say. She stands in the corridor, gun still in her hand. The man she's hunted for 18 months now escaped. and all she can do is stare at this foolish, gentle boy who just asked if she was hurt. Who is this fool, she thinks, and why does he look at me like I'm someone worth saving? His full name is Hyun Park, 23 years old, the only son of a widow in Busan, South Korea, a woman who raised him alone after his father died in a construction accident when Hyun was 9. He immigrated to Vancouver 2 years ago on a work visa, chasing the promise of better wages, steadier hours, a chance to build something. He works 2 jobs on this train: kitchen assistant in the dining car from 6 in the evening until 2 in the morning, serving passengers who barely glance at him. Then, if the head engineer needs help, he switches to a second shift as an apprentice mechanic from 2:30 until 6 in the morning, learning the systems, fixing what breaks, keeping the massive machine running through the night. 20-hour days, 4 hours of sleep in a supply closet, then back to the kitchen. He does this because his mother needs heart medicine that costs $300 a month, because the remittance app doesn't forgive missed payments, because he promised her, standing in their tiny apartment the day he left, holding her hands, that he'd come home with enough money to fix the leaking roof before winter, to buy her the warm coat she needs, to pay off the loans that kept them afloat after his father died. Because when he was 7 years old, walking home from school, he found his mother crying in the kitchen over bills she couldn't pay. And she looked up at him with red eyes and said, "Hyun, if you help someone, help them all the way, even if it costs you, even if it hurts, because kindness is the only thing that makes us human." He's carried those words like a compass ever since. The head chef, a barrel-chested man named Maurice, who rules the kitchen like a tyrant, screams at him for 20 minutes after the incident in Car 9. Hyun stands in the bright, too-hot kitchen, surrounded by the clang of pots and the hiss of steam, and takes every word. He bows low after each sentence, apologizes, bows again. The cut on his face has stopped bleeding, but it stings under the harsh fluorescent lights. His ears ring with Morris's fury. "You cost us a tray of premium dumplings, $40 of product. Do you know what those cost? Do you have any idea what our margins are?" "Yes, sir. I'm very sorry, sir." "And you left your station during service. You abandoned your post without permission." "Sir, there was—" I don't care if the train was on fire." "You don't leave without asking me first." Maurice's face is red, a vein throbbing in his temple. "Get back to the dish station now, and if I see you wander off again, even for a second, you're done. Finished. I'll have you on the next train, back to Vancouver without a reference. Understand?" "Yes, sir, I understand. I'm very sorry." Hyun moves to the industrial sink, his heart still pounding from the gun, from the woman's cold eyes, from how close he came to dying without ever seeing his mother again. His hands are raw from hot water and soap, red and chapped from 8 hours of washing dishes. He scrubs mechanically, methodically, the way his mother taught him to do all things, with care, with precision, with gratitude for the work itself, because work is a gift and unemployment is a curse. Around him, the kitchen roars with late-night energy. Pots clatter on burners. Steam hisses from pressure cookers. The rhythmic chop-chop-chop of knives on cutting boards as the prep cook dices vegetables for tomorrow's breakfast service. The sharp smell of garlic and ginger being sautéed in hot oil. The sweet scent of pastries baking in the oven. He keeps his head down. He always does. It's safer that way. Draw no attention. Make no waves, do your work, and go home. But through the service window, the narrow opening where finished plates pass from kitchen to dining car, he sees her. Amara sits alone at a table in the first-class lounge, her silhouette framed by the wide observation window. The landscape rushes past outside in streaks of black and silver, dark forests, distant mountains, the occasional light from a farmhouse or small town. The moon is 3/4 full tonight, painting everything in shades of gray and white. She doesn't eat, doesn't drink, doesn't read or look at her phone, just sits perfectly still, watching the night like she's searching for something that will never appear. Her hands rest on the table, and even from here, Hyun can see the tension in her shoulders, the way she holds herself like a spring wound too tight. He wonders what she's lost. What drives someone to stand in a corridor with a gun, ready to end a life? What pain lives behind those cold, calculating eyes? He wonders if she has a mother waiting somewhere, worrying about her. He finishes his shift at 2 in the morning. The corridor connecting the kitchen to the crew quarters is empty and cold. The heating system works less efficiently in the service areas, and the temperature drops as the night deepens. His breath mists slightly in the air. He's walking to the supply closet near the engineering bay, his unofficial bedroom where he stashed a folded blanket and a battered textbook on diesel engine systems. When he sees her again, Amara leans against the wall near the connector between cars, cradling her left hand against her chest. Blood seeps between her fingers, dark and wet, dripping onto her black pants. She must have caught it on the edge of the cart when Caro shoved her. A deep gash across her palm that needs stitches, but will have to make do with pressure and improvisation. Her face is pale, not with fear, but with the tight-lipped focus of someone managing pain and refusing to show it. Hyun doesn't think, doesn't calculate, doesn't consider that this woman nearly killed a man in front of him an hour ago. He just sees someone bleeding and acts on instinct. "Please," he says softly, approaching with his hands clearly visible, palms up, the universal gesture of non-threat. "Let me help you." She looks at him. Her eyes are dark and unreadable, shadowed with exhaustion and something else, something that might be surprise. "You should stay away from me," she says. Her voice is rough with tiredness. "You're bleeding." "I've bled before. I'll bleed again." "That doesn't mean you should now, not when I can help." Something flickers in her expression. Surprise, maybe, or exhaustion, deep enough that arguing takes more energy than accepting. She studies him for a long moment, and Hyun has the uncomfortable feeling that she's reading everything about him. His worn shoes, his cheap uniform, the way he stands with his weight slightly forward, like someone used to serving others. Then she extends her hand. Hyun pulls a clean kitchen towel from his apron pocket, white cotton still warm from being folded near the ovens, dampened with hot water from the service station. He wraps it gently around her palm, careful not to press directly on the wound. His touch is practiced, the touch of someone who's bandaged his mother's hands after long days of sewing work, who's learned how to care for injuries without making them worse. "Hold this for 5 minutes," he says quietly. "Keep pressure on it. The bleeding should stop. If it doesn't, you need to see the medical officer in car 7. This might need stitches." "You always help strangers?" "My mother taught me to. She said kindness is free, and the world needs more of it." "Even dangerous ones? Even people like me?" Hyun meets her gaze directly. His eyes are steady, honest, holding nothing back. Especially those. Everyone deserves basic kindness. My mother taught me that too. She said sometimes the people who seem hardest are the ones who need gentleness most. Amara studies him, his tired, gentle face, the way he stands close enough to help but far enough to give her space. The complete lack of calculation in his expression. She spent 15 years in a world where everyone wants something, where every gesture comes with strings attached, where kindness is just a tactic to get you to lower your guard. But this boy, this exhausted, underpaid kitchen worker who just took a bullet graze protecting children he doesn't know, looks at her and sees a person, just a person who needs help. She sees no angle, no scheme, just humanity, offered freely, like it's the most natural thing in the world. "What's your name?" she asks quietly. Hyun Park." She nods once, committing it to memory. "Thank you, Hyun Park. For the towel, for your discretion about earlier." He bows slightly, a habit from home, a gesture of respect and farewell, and starts to turn away. "Hyun," she calls after him. He stops, turns back. "Be careful," she says. "The man who ran, he doesn't forget faces. He might think you saw something you shouldn't have." "Did I?" "Yes, but I'll make sure he doesn't come for you." "Why would you do that?" She's quiet for a moment, looking at the towel wrapped around her hand, at the care with which he tied it, at the evidence that someone looked at her and chose to help instead of run. "Because you asked if I was hurt," she says finally, "and it's been a long time since anyone asked me that." Then she walks away, disappearing into the shadows between cars. Hyun stands alone in the cold corridor, his heart beating too fast, and realizes he's just been given a gift, his life, and a warning, and maybe something else, something he doesn't have words for yet. I just met someone dangerous, he thinks, touching the cut on his cheek, so why do I want to see her again? The alarm sounds at 3:47 in the morning. Hyun is in the engineering bay, elbow deep in the secondary cooling system diagnostic panel, when the lights cut out. For 3 seconds, there's absolute darkness, the kind of darkness that makes your eyes strain and invent shapes that aren't there. Then emergency red floods the corridor, bathing everything in the color of warning and blood. The train shudders violently. Brakes scream. Then, impossibly, dangerously, the engine surges forward. Faster. The acceleration presses Hyun back against the wall. This isn't normal. This isn't protocol. Something is very wrong. Passengers wake in their cabins, confused and frightened. He hears voices through the walls, questioning, worried. A child cries somewhere in the distance. A woman's voice tries to soothe. The ordinary sounds of fear in the night. Then he hears shouting, gunfire. The sharp crack of bullets punching through metal. The metallic snap of locks being thrown with force, like someone slamming prison cells shut. Someone has sealed cars 9, 10, and 11 from the outside using the emergency override codes. Codes that only senior crew members are supposed to have. Codes that require security clearance and train network authorization. Which means this isn't random, this is planned, organized. Hyun runs toward the passenger section, his mind racing through emergency protocols he memorized during training. He needs to check if anyone is injured. If the ventilation system is still working in the sealed cars, if it's not, people could suffocate within 2 hours. If the children are safe, if the elderly passengers need medical attention. His hands reach for the emergency panel when a door slams open behind him. Amara steps through, moving like a shadow, her coat billowing behind her. She's changed clothes since he last saw her, now wearing tactical pants, boots with good grip, a dark jacket with multiple pockets. Her hair is pulled back tight. She's holding a gun, but it's pointed at the floor, finger outside the trigger guard. Professional, controlled. "They locked us in," she says without preamble. Her voice is calm, but Hyun can hear the anger underneath, cold and sharp. "Who did this? Why would anyone?" "The man you saved tonight, Caro. His people control the forward cars now. They're in the engine room, the communications center, the main control systems." She moves to the emergency panel, examining it with the practiced eye of someone who's studied these systems. "He's cutting us off from the rest of the train, sealing us in until we reach Seattle." Hyun's mind reels. "But there are families in these cars, children, elderly passengers. We need to evacuate them." "No time, listen." Caro's voice crackles over the intercom system, distorted by static and poor speakers, but unmistakably mocking. The voice of someone who thinks they've won, who's savoring the moment. "Amara, I know you're in there somewhere, you and your little hero with the food cart. I want you to know, the doors stay locked until we reach Seattle Station. That's in 3 hours. 3 hours for you to think about what happens next." He laughs, a sound like breaking glass. "Then I'm gone. New identity, new life, and you're just another body on the tracks. Should have killed me when you had the chance, Queen." The intercom cuts off with a burst of static. The train picks up speed, too fast. The rails shriek with the strain. The walls vibrate. Hyun knows these trains intimately. Every system, every safety parameter, every limitation. At this speed, if they hit the curve near Bellingham, the emergency brakes won't engage properly. The train could derail. And if the train derails at 75 miles per hour? He doesn't finish the thought. Amara moves to the control panel beside him. Her hands are steady, but there's a tightness around her eyes that suggests she's calculating odds, running scenarios, planning 3 moves ahead. Hyun is already there, his fingers flying over the keypad, entering override codes he learned during his apprenticeship. The panel beeps angrily, rejecting each attempt. Caro's people have locked them out from the main system. "I can override the doors," Hyun says, sweat beading on his temple despite the cold. "But I need to access the manual release system. That's in the engineering compartment. Give me 3 minutes." "You have 2. Bullets punch through the door behind them. Sharp cracks followed by the whine of ricochets. Sparks fly from the metal. The smell of hot metal and gunpowder fills the air. Hyun flinches, his body reacting before his mind catches up, but he doesn't stop working. His hands stay steady on the keypad. Amara steps in front of him, positioning her body as a shield between him and the door, her gun raised. She doesn't fire wildly. She waits, watches, counts heartbeats, measures breathing patterns. When the next shooter appears in the doorway, a man Hyun doesn't recognize, wearing a crew uniform he clearly stole, Amara fires twice. Clean shots, center mass, professional. The man drops, the shooting stops. "It done," Hyun says, his voice shaking slightly. The panel beeps green. The lock disengages with a heavy chunk. The door hisses open, releasing the pressure seal. He turns to Amara, breathing hard. "We need to evacuate everyone from these cars. Get them to safety." No, we need to stop him. If Caro reaches Seattle, he disappears with everything he knows about the Shadow Coast organization. Every secret, every weakness, every name. She looks at him directly, and he sees something in her eyes he didn't expect: desperation. And this train is accelerating past safety limits. You said 3 hours to Seattle? At this speed, maybe less. There's a sharp curve in 90 minutes, the Bellingham curve. If we're going this fast when we hit it, what happens? Hyun's face goes pale. The train derails. At this speed, probably half the cars go off the rails. Casualties in the dozens, maybe hundreds if the forward cars catch fire. Then we stop him. We slow this train down. We save everyone. She extends her hand to him. Not a command, an offer, a partnership. But I need your help. I need someone who knows these systems. Hyun looks at her hand, at the woman who held a gun to a man's head a few hours ago, who clearly lives in a world of violence and secrets and darkness he can't begin to understand. But he also sees the woman who took his warning about children seriously, who thanked him for asking if she was hurt, who just put herself between him and bullets without hesitation. And he thinks about the families sleeping 3 doors down, about the little girl and her baby brother, about his mother back in Busan, waiting for him to call tomorrow like he does every Sunday. He takes her hand. The coupling between cars 10 and 11, he says quickly, his engineering mind already solving the problem. If we can manually disconnect it, we can separate Caro's reinforcements from the passenger cars. The passenger cars will slow down naturally without the engine pulling them. They'll coast to a safe stop. Can you do that? Yes, but I'll need to access the roof coupling mechanism. The controls are external, designed for emergency separation. Then we climb. They move through the corridor together, past sleeping passengers who are just now waking up to the emergency lights, confusion on their faces. Hyun pauses at each door, checking in through the small windows, making sure everyone is okay, making sure the children are still safe. An elderly woman opens her door a crack, her face creased with worry. "Young man, what's happening?" "Just a mechanical issue, ma'am," Hyun says gently, his voice calm despite his racing heart. "Please stay in your cabin with the door locked. We'll have it fixed soon." "Are we safe?" He looks at Amara, who nods once. "Yes, ma'am. You're safe, I promise." They reach the access ladder at the end of car 10. Hyun unlocks the maintenance hatch with his crew key. Cold wind immediately rushes in, carrying the scent of pine trees and diesel and night air. As he prepares to climb, Amara touches his shoulder. "Hyun, once we're up there, if something happens to me, you run, you get back inside, you disconnect the cars anyway, and you make sure those families survive. Understand? Nothing's going to happen to you. If it does, then I'll make sure they survive. I promise." She looks at him for a long moment, then nods. "Thank you." They climb into the cold darkness above, into the wind and the night, toward the roof where the real danger waits. If you're feeling the tension build, hit that subscribe button and join me every night for stories that heal, inspire, and remind us what real love looks like. The engineering compartment is narrow and cold, tucked between 2 cars like an afterthought. Red emergency lights pulse like a heartbeat, casting everything in shades of crimson and shadow. The space smells of machine oil and old metal and the ozone scent that comes before storms. Hyun kneels by the roof access panel, working the latch with fingers that are starting to go numb from cold. Sweat drips from his temple despite the chill. His breath comes in visible puffs. The cut on his cheek has started bleeding again, a thin line of red tracking down to his jaw. Amara stands behind him, her back to the wall, her knife in one hand and her gun in the other. She watches the corridor through the small window in the door, listens for footsteps, counts shadows. Her body is a coiled spring, ready to move, to fight, to protect. "You're skilled at this," she says, watching him work. "The engineering." "I have to be. It's how I pay for school, for my mother's medicine." He grunts as the latch resists, then finally gives with a metallic click. "She has a heart condition. The medicine costs $300 a month. My kitchen salary covers rent and food. The engineering work covers her medicine." "That's why you're here, working yourself to exhaustion." "Yes." The panel swings open. Cold wind rushes in from the hatch above, carrying the sound of wheels on rails, the whistle of air moving past at speed. Hyun stands, wipes his hands on his pants, leaving smears of grease and blood. "Why did you ask around about me?" he asks quietly, not looking at her. "Earlier, you said you asked around. Why?" Amara is silent for a moment, then, "Because I needed to understand something." "What?" "Why you stepped in front of a gun for a stranger. Most people run, smart people run, but you." She turns to look at him fully. "You put yourself between me and a bullet to protect children you don't even know. Why?" Hyun meets her gaze. His eyes are steady even in the red light, even with exhaustion pulling at him. "My mother once told me, if you help someone, help them all the way, even if it costs you everything, even if you're afraid, because kindness is what separates us from monsters." He pauses. "She said that fear is natural, but cowardice is a choice, and I didn't want to be someone who chose to look away." "And if it had killed you?" "Then at least I would have died trying to do something good. That's worth something, isn't it? To die for something that matters?" Amara feels something crack inside her chest. Something small and sharp and painful, like ice under pressure, finally giving way. She's spent 15 years in a world where everyone wants something, where kindness is weakness, where helping others gets you killed or betrayed or used. But this exhausted, underpaid boy stands here in a red-lit corridor and tells her the truth like it's the simplest thing in the world. Like choosing kindness is obvious, natural. The only real choice there is. "Do you know who I am?" she asks. "Really know?" "I know enough. I know you're dangerous. I know you're hunting someone. I know you've killed before." "Then you should be terrified of me." "I am," he says simply. "But a person in danger is still a person. That's what my mother taught me. Everyone deserves basic human dignity, even people who've done terrible things. Maybe especially them." The words land like stones in still water. Ripples spread outward, disturbing the surface of everything Amara thought she knew about the world. "You're either very brave," she says, her voice softer than before, "or very foolish. Can't I be both?" She almost smiles. The corner of her mouth twitches, wanting to curve upward, and she has to fight to keep her expression neutral. It's been 3 years since she smiled. 3 years since anything felt light enough to smile about. "We need to climb," Hyun says, looking up at the open hatch. Wind howls through it, carrying the scent of rain and distance. The roof coupling is the only way to separate the cars safely. Once we're up there, I'll need about 5 minutes to manually disconnect the system. I'll cover you while you work. Amara, what? Thank you for protecting me earlier, when they started shooting. You protected me first, in the corridor. That was different. Why? Because I'm nobody, just a kitchen worker. But you're someone who matters, someone who's trying to stop something bad from happening. Amara steps closer to him. In the red light, with shadows playing across her face, she looks younger, more vulnerable, less like a weapon, and more like a woman who's been carrying too much weight for too long. Hyun, you're not nobody. You're someone who saw children in danger and decided to be brave. That's not nothing. She reaches out and touches his wrist, her fingers cold but gentle. That's everything. His breath catches. His heart does something complicated in his chest. We should go, she says, releasing him, before they realize what we're doing. But before he climbs, she adds, so quietly, he almost misses it. Thank you for the towel, for not running, for being exactly who you are. I needed to remember that people like you still exist. Hyun doesn't know what to say to that, so he just nods and climbs into the wind. Amara follows, and as she pulls herself up through the hatch, she realizes something terrifying. She doesn't want him to disappear when this is over. She wants to hear more about his mother, about the lessons she taught him, about what kind of person grows up to be this gentle in a hard world. She wants to protect that gentleness, to make sure nothing breaks it. And that realization scares her more than any gun ever has. The rain hits them like needles. The train roof is slick with water and oil. The wind howls, tearing at their clothes. Below, the tracks blur into silver ribbons cutting through dark forest. One wrong step means death. Hyun moves carefully, his fingers gripping the maintenance rail. Every muscle screams, his ribs ache, but he keeps moving, one step, then another. Amara follows, her movements precise and practiced. The moon breaks through the clouds, bathing them in cold blue light. Ahead, on the roof of Car 10, Caro stands with a rifle. Amara, he shouts over the wind and rain. This is where it ends. You should have killed me when you had the chance. He fires. The crack of the rifle cuts through the wind. The bullet sparks off the metal roof 6 inches from Hyun's left foot. Hyun stumbles, his boot slipping on the wet surface. His hand flies out, grasping for the rail. His fingers miss. He falls to one knee, starts to slide toward the edge. Amara lunges. She grabs his wrist with both hands, her fingers digging in, hard enough to bruise. She pulls with everything she has, every ounce of strength. Hyun crashes into her, and they collapse together on the roof, gasping, tangled together. Are you hurt? She demands, her hands already running over him, checking for injuries. No, I just, thank you. Another shot, this one closer. The bullet winds past Hyun's ear, so close he feels the displacement of air. Amara rolls, pulling Hyun with her behind a ventilation unit. A 3-foot-tall metal box that provides barely enough cover for both of them. She presses him back against it, covering his body with hers as the next bullet pings off the metal. The bullet meant for him tears through her coat instead, grazing her shoulder. The same shoulder she injured earlier. Blood blooms dark against the soaked fabric, spreading. Hyun's eyes widen in horror. You're bleeding. You've been shot. It's just a graze. I'll live. You just took a bullet for me, again. I know. Why would you do that? She looks down at him, rain streaming down her face, plastering her hair to her skull. Her chest rises and falls against his. Her hands are braced on either side of his shoulders. And for one impossible, perfect moment, the world narrows to just this. His face below hers, his eyes wide with concern, not for himself but for her, his gentle hands reaching up to touch her face, like she's something precious instead of something dangerous. "Please," he says, his voice breaking, and she realizes he's crying, tears mixing with rain. "Please don't die because of me. I'm not worth it. I'm nobody. I'm just—" "You're not nobody," she says fiercely. "Don't ever say that." "Then what am I?" "You're someone who reminds me what it means to be human. You're someone who makes me want to be better than I am." She touches his face, her thumb tracing the line of his jaw. "You're someone I don't want to lose." Something in her chest shifts, cracks, opens like a door that's been locked for 3 years, finally giving way. All the grief and rage and loneliness she's been carrying floods out, and in its place, something else, something terrifying and exhilarating and impossible. Hope. "Please don't die because of me," he whispers again. "I won't," she says, and she realizes, terrifyingly, beautifully, that she means it, that for the first time since Femi died, she wants to survive. Not for revenge, not for duty, but for this, for him, for the possibility of something beyond the darkness she's been living in. She smiles, small, real, fragile as first light. After a long night, he sees it, and despite everything, the rain, the bullets, the death waiting for them, he smiles back. "We need to move," she says. "Together. Can you run?" "With you, yes." "Then let's finish this." They rise together, moving as one. Karo is reloading, his hands shaking with cold, or fear, or both. They have maybe 10 seconds. Amara runs, Hyun follows. The wind screams, the rain blinds, but they don't stop. They've made a choice, both of them, to fight for something worth saving, to protect each other, to survive this night together. Karo raises the rifle. Amara times her jump perfectly, launching herself across the gap between cars just as he pulls the trigger. She collides with him mid-aim. They crash onto the roof of car 11, rolling, grappling. The rifle skitters away, bounces once, and tumbles off the side of the train, into the darkness. Hyun reaches them, his lungs burning. He kicks at Karo's hand as the traitor reaches for a backup weapon. Karo is faster. He pulls a knife and slashes wildly. Amara blocks, but the blade still cuts her forearm. Deep. She gasps, stumbles. Hyun doesn't think. He grabs Karo's wrist with both hands. He's not strong, not trained for this, but he's desperate, and fear makes him fierce. He twists hard, fighting for leverage, and hears something crack. The knife falls, clattering on the metal roof. Karo snarls, pain and fury contorting his face. He punches Hyun in the ribs with his free hand, the same ribs that are already bruised from earlier. Hyun gasps, his vision graying at the edges, and he feels his grip loosening. Amara is there. She kicks Karo's knee from behind. He buckles. She follows with an elbow to his temple. Professional. Efficient. He drops hard, dazed. She could kill him, should kill him. Every instinct screams for it. 3 years of hunting, 3 years of grief. And he's right here, vulnerable, defeated. But Hyun's words echo in her mind. A person in danger is still a person. "I get up," she says, her gun trained on Karo's head. Move into the freight car now. Karo laughs, breathless and bitter, blood running from his split lip. You're getting soft, Amara, just like your sister, weak. Get up, or I leave you on this roof to fall when the train takes the curve. Something in her voice convinces him. He rises slowly, hands raised, and moves toward the access hatch. They descend into the freight car below, Hyun following on shaking legs. His ribs scream with every breath. His hands are numb with cold, but he's alive. She's alive. They made it. Amara forces Karo to sit, then binds his hands with cable ties from the emergency kit, pulling them tight enough to cut circulation. Only then does she turn to Hyun, pulling him into the dim light to check his injuries properly. She needs to see how badly he's hurt, needs to bandage the cuts before they get infected, she tears his shirt to expose his shoulder and freezes, a scar, curved like a crescent moon, old but unmistakable, the mark her sister's attackers left on witnesses as a warning, carved with a specific knife in a specific pattern used by a specific crew. The mark that means he was there the night Femi died. Amara's world stops. Her hands freeze on his shirt. Her breath stops. Her mind races backward through 3 years, through grief and rage and investigation, to the police report that mentioned a witness, a young man who was seen running from the scene, who disappeared before they could question him. The witness who could have saved Femi, who could have called for help faster, who could have stopped the bleeding, the witness who ran. Where did you get this scar? Her voice is barely above a whisper, but it carries the weight of 3 years of grief. The freight car is dim and cold. Crates line the walls. The train rocks steadily. Hyun sits on the floor, his back against a crate. His shoulder is bleeding from the fight. Amara had been reaching for fabric to bandage it, but now she's frozen, staring at the scar. Where did you get this? Her voice is barely above a whisper. Hyun looks down at his shoulder, at the curved scar he's carried for 3 years. His face goes pale. It's old. From 3 years ago. Amara's breath stops. Her mind races backward to the warehouse by the docks, to the phone call at 3 in the morning, to Femi's body on the cold metal table. Tell me everything, now. Hyun closes his eyes. Every word cuts like glass. I was 20, working part-time at a warehouse near the Vancouver docks. I needed money for tuition, for my mother's medicine. He swallows. It was past midnight. I heard shouting, gunfire. I should have run, but I heard someone crying, a girl's voice. And Amara's gun is in her hand now. I found her in the alley behind the warehouse. She was bleeding from her stomach, so young, so scared. Tears slipped down his face. She had a silver bracelet with little stars on it. She kept touching it. Amara's heart shatters. Femi's bracelet, their mother's last gift. I tried to help. I pressed my jacket against the wound. I called for help, but then they came back. 3 men, one cut me with a knife, said if I told anyone, they'd kill my mother, said they knew where she lived. He touches the scar, so I ran. I left her there, alone. She died, Amara says flatly. She bled out in that alley, alone, because you abandoned her. I've lived with it every day since. I sent money to charities. I volunteered at shelters. I helped everyone I could, trying to make up for leaving her, but I can never make up for it. Amara stands. The gun is at his forehead now. Her name was Femi Adeniyi. She was 19. She was my baby sister. She was everything. Hyun's eyes widen. Your sister. You left my sister to die. I didn't know. You didn't stay. They would have killed me, killed my mother. And so my sister died alone in the dark. Amara's voice cracks with 3 years of grief. She called for me. She died calling my name, and you weren't there. Hyun doesn't beg, doesn't defend himself, just looks at her with grief that mirrors her own. I'm guilty. I've carried it every day. I tried to become someone who wouldn't run. He closes his eyes. If killing me will help you, then do it. I won't fight you. Amara's finger tightens on the trigger. This is justice. 3 years of pain, and here is the answer. Pull the trigger, and it's done. But her hand won't move, because she remembers his voice. There are children sleeping 2 doors down, because she remembers him bandaging her hand with gentle fingers, because she remembers the way he looked at her on the roof, like she was someone worth saving. He was 20 years old, terrified, protecting his mother, just like I would have done. I can't, she whispers. She lowers the gun, turns away. Her shoulders shake. Hyun bows his head and sobs. Karo, bound in the corner, laughs sharply. See, you're weak, Amara. Too emotional to lead. Your sister was weak too. That's why she died. And now you'll lose everything because you can't pull one simple trigger. Amara spins. Her eyes are molten. No, I'm not weak. I'm just done being like you. She walks to the door, locks it from the outside, leaving Hyun and Karo in the dim car. She doesn't look back, because if she does, she'll break completely. Dawn breaks over the Cascade Mountains, pink and gold bleeding across the horizon. The train slows as it approaches Seattle. Amara stands in the corridor outside the freight car's control station. Through the reinforced glass window, she sees Karo has freed himself. The cable ties had a flaw she missed. He's holding Hyun hostage now, a hidden knife pressed to his throat. This was Karo's insurance, his final play. Amara, he shouts through the glass, I know you can hear me. Open this door or I kill him right now. Hyun kneels on the floor. Blood runs from his temple where Karo struck him. But his eyes are clear, calm. He mouths to her through the glass. It's okay, but it's not okay. Because somewhere in the past 24 hours, Hyun stopped being a stranger. He became the voice that asked if she was injured, the hands that pulled her back from the edge, the face that looked at her and saw a person, not a weapon. He became the first person since Femi who made her want to be more than the destroyer she's become. Karo, she says, her voice carrying through the glass. Let him go. Take me instead. No deal. I want safe passage to Seattle. I want the charges dropped, and he's my ticket. Then you'll die too. I can shoot through this glass. And kill him in the process. You won't. Not after you spared him. Karo presses the knife harder. A thin line of blood appears on Hyun's neck. You've gone soft, Amara. Amara's mind races. She looks at Hyun, at his steady eyes, at the way he's positioned. His hand is near the emergency release panel, the same panel he opened before. He knows these systems, every override, every emergency protocol. She meets his gaze, nods toward the panel. Barely a movement. He understands. Karo, Amara says, buying time. Do you remember what you said to my sister before she died? What? You told her trust is weakness, that only monsters survive. And I was right. No. Amara raises her gun, aiming at the control panel above them. You were wrong. Trust isn't weakness. It's what makes us human. She fires. The lights explode. The room plunges into darkness. In the same instant, Hyun slams the emergency floor release. The panel beneath Karo's feet drops, a safety mechanism for evacuating the control room. Karo falls, stumbling, his knife clattering away. Amara kicks through the weakened door and charges in. She fires once. The bullet hits Karo's shoulder. He spins, falls, clutches the wound. But she doesn't kill him. She kicks his weapon away and steps back. Hyun collapses against the wall, trembling. His hand goes to his throat, checking the shallow cut. He covers his face. His shoulders shake with sobs he can no longer contain. For 3 years he's carried the guilt. And for one terrible moment, he thought he would die without making amends. Amara kneels beside him, gently pulls his hands away from his face. "Look at me." He does. His eyes are destroyed. "You ran when you should have stayed. You left my sister when she needed you most." He nods, tears streaming. "But you don't deserve to die, and I—" Her voice cracks. She takes a breath. "I forgive you, not because you've earned it, but because I'm tired of carrying hate. I'm tired of being someone who only knows how to destroy." She touches his face. Her thumb brushes away his tears. "You showed me I could be someone who protects instead of punishes. Someone who chooses mercy over revenge. And I want to be that person." Hyun stares at her. "How can you forgive me?" "Because 3 years ago, you were a terrified kid trying to protect your mother. And if I'd been in your place, I would have done the same." She smiles sadly. "We're all just trying to protect the people we love, even when it breaks us." She helps him to his feet. Behind them, Karo groans, defeated. "The police will handle him. My part is done." They walk out together. The train pulls into Seattle Station. The sun rises, painting everything gold. For the first time in 3 years, Amara feels light. The train pulls into Seattle Station at 6:04 in the morning. White steam rises from the tracks, catching the morning light. Passengers disembark, tired but safe. Amara walks off with her hands raised. She surrenders her weapon to the police, waiting on the platform. They know who she is, but they also know she stopped Karo, that she saved the passengers. They take Karo away on a stretcher, his shoulder bandaged, his wrists cuffed. He glares at Amara, but she doesn't look at him. He's already in the past. She answers the detective's questions. Her voice is calm, steady. When they ask if she wants protection, she shakes her head. The organization will handle its own justice. I'm done with that life. They let her go. Because sometimes the law understands that justice is more complicated than courtrooms and cages. Hyun sits on a bench near the platform, a medic wrapping his ribs. He winces but doesn't complain. His phone buzzes, messages from the kitchen manager. He doesn't answer, not yet. He watches Amara talk to the police, watches her stand fearless even now. When she walks past him toward the exit, he stands. "Amara." She stops, turns. The morning light catches her face, softening the hard lines. "Will we meet again?" His voice is quiet but steady. She looks at him for a long moment. "Do you want to?" "Yes, more than anything." "Then you'll have to find me." "Where?" She smiles, small, real. The second genuine smile he's seen from her. "I'll be in the light, somewhere helping people. Maybe a clinic, maybe a community center, maybe a kitchen." She laughs softly. "I don't know yet, but I'll be somewhere good, somewhere Femi would be proud of." Hyun steps closer, reaches into his pocket, pulls out a folded piece of paper, his mother's address, written in careful handwriting. Send me letters. When you find your place, tell me where you are. And when I finish my engineering certification, I'll come find you. Amara takes the paper, unfolds it, reads the address, refolds it carefully, and tucks it into her coat, right over her heart. Hyun, thank you for stepping in front of that bullet, for bandaging my hand, for showing me that kindness still exists, for reminding me who I could be. You reminded me, too, that mistakes don't have to define us forever, that forgiveness is possible even when it seems impossible. They stand in the morning light. Around them, the city wakes. But for this moment, the world is just the two of them. Amara steps close, rises on her toes, presses a kiss to his cheek. Soft, brief, a promise written in touch. Find me, she whispers. When you're ready, I'll be waiting. Then she walks away. The sun rises behind her, painting her silhouette in gold and rose and hope. She doesn't look back, not because she doesn't want to, but because she needs to move forward. Hyun watches until she disappears into the crowd. Then he touches his cheek, where her lips left warmth, and smiles through his tears. I'll find you, and when I do, I'll never let you go. He picks up his phone, dials his mother's number. When she answers, he hears the worry in her voice. Mom, he says gently, I'm okay, I'm safe, and I have so much to tell you. Are you coming home? He looks toward where Amara disappeared, toward the light. Soon, but first, I have to finish something. I have to become someone worthy of a second chance. His mother is quiet for a moment. Then she says, in the voice that raised him, You already are, my son. You always have been. Hyun closes his eyes, lets the words wash over him, lets them heal the wound he's carried for 3 years. And then he starts walking. Not toward the past, not toward guilt, but toward the future, toward light, toward love, toward her. Every ending is also a beginning. Every sunrise is a second chance. What will you begin tomorrow? I'll be here tomorrow night with another story of love, courage, and the healing power of choosing light over darkness. Thank you for letting me be part of your evening. Sleep well and dream of possibilities.